What I'd like to do now is start with Muneer, and we'll go right down the line. Quick introductions, who you are, what your group is, and then we'll get into more Q&A.
So I'm from DoSomething.org. We're the largest organization for young people in social change. We activated 2.4 million young people to do something last year. We run 25 national cause campaigns every year. And by young people, I mean the people between the ages of 13 and 25. So anybody who's over 25 is known as an old person in our office. So whenever somebody turns 26, it's a very sad day, and maybe that's why they take the day off. So we are 70% corporate funded. We used to be 90% corporate funded. We just came down to 70% because last year, Media Network, Knight Foundation, and Google invested in us to take us to scale because they really believe in what we're doing, and we've had tons of success over the past 3 years. So I want to give you a very short story, a case study that reflects how successful partnership works with Do Something. So 5 years ago, we asked our members, what's one issue that you really care about? And our members are young people, and back then we had about 120,000 young people. And the one issue that came up was teen homelessness. And that's an issue that they're really passionate about, and they wanted to do something about it. So we said, well, what can we do about teen homelessness? That's such a massive issue. And when we think about homelessness, we think about those old guys, who are carrying a cart, or like have a massive trash bag with them, or they're just dirty and like bearded guys on the subway or something like that. But actually, a third of the US homeless population is under the age of 18. So it's a massive issue, and we need to address it. So we said we need to do something about it. So we started calling youth homeless shelters across the country to ask them, what is something that you find that young people need when they come to your homeless shelter? And you would think that maybe it's like a shower or a cell phone or an iPod or something like that, right? It was blue jeans. It's so simple. It's blue jeans. That's all they need. And when you think about it, it's such a simple answer. Jeans are such a staple piece of clothing in all of our wardrobes, especially teenagers. It makes them feel normal. It gives them dignity. So we said we need to do something about this. So we started to, we planned to start the largest jean drive in the country. And we needed a corporate partner. So we looked at brands that young people care about, and Aeropostale was the top brand that came out after doing more research and asking more young people about what brands they care about. So we talked to Aeropostale, created a fantastic partnership where we had our members go into their stores to drop off a gently worn pair of jeans, and in return they would get 25% off coupon to buy another pair of jeans. It's a win-win for both of us. 5 years later, this year we launched the campaign again in January. And I'm happy to report that we collected 1,048,000 pairs of jeans. Wow. That's effectively clothing 2/3 of the homeless teen population in the US. So that's meaningful impact. That's actual impact. But what's really great about this on the corporate side is that Aeropostale got 350,000 young people to go into their stores at a time of year that was really not good for them, which is after Christmas. Everybody's broke, and nobody's going to the malls, and they have 1,000 stores, and we send 350,000 people into their stores. So that's an example of the kind of partnerships that we like to create. It's a win-win.
Ed?
Hi, Ed Davis. I'm Executive Director of DECA. We are a student organization with 5,000 chapters and 250,000 students in the US, Canada, and 8 other countries. We serve students who are interested in business, and 60% of our students say they want to open their own business. We have a wide range of entrepreneurship programs and activities for students, and a 65-year history of partnering with all kinds of different corporations and organizations. And for those of you who are looking for nonprofit partners, I'm happy to hang out after we get done and expand those partnerships. But I think the key for us has, and many of the corporate sponsors that have been involved with us have been there for 65 years. And I think it's that constant renewal of understanding what their business is and what they're looking for from the kind of partnership that we offer, and maintaining and showing that return on investment on a continuing basis. So my advice to folks who are looking for partnerships, be able to show exactly what it is you do and exactly how that returns some investment to the corporate sponsors.
Greg?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Schiefelbein with Opportunity Finance Network. We're a national network of community lenders, so we come at entrepreneurs and small business and job creation from the capital side. We have, over the course of the last 25 or 30 years, put about $30 billion into communities. We are nonprofit, private financial institutions. We're profitable in most cases, but not profit maximizing. And we especially target and focus our work on low and moderate income communities where opportunity is typically difficult to come by, especially financing opportunities. The partnership that has really changed the game for us, and we're continuing to be excited about, is an initiative called Create Jobs for USA that we launched with Starbucks just about a year ago. We're just coming up on our 1-year anniversary. It's been a tremendous success for us and has really changed how we as an organization think about corporate partnerships, how we understand and respect corporate partners in a different way, I think. To date, we've had north of 1 billion media impressions around Create Jobs for USA, which is just mind-blowing for us as a small 30-person nonprofit organization. We've raised $13.5 million, which translates roughly into $95 million worth of financing for community businesses, and created somewhere on the order of 4,500 new jobs in low and moderate income communities that need them the most. So we've been very excited. We're just about to launch phase 2 and explore different ways of working with our corporate partners. But I'm excited to share any lessons that we can from our experience.
Great. Ingrid?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ingrid Vanderveldt, and I have to say, from your comment, I am definitely one of the older one that I guess in the group. And for all the women out there, I am definitely glad I wore a red dress. So nice to be up here with all you guys. Well, the good news is this. So I am actually a lifelong entrepreneur myself. I also was a business television host with CNBC. So I've built and sold a number of different kinds of companies in a number of different types of industries. All of them have had very strong technology backbones. So my first companies were data analytics, data mining. I've done social media production. My last 2 companies were green energy companies. And what a lot of successful entrepreneurs tend to do is we like to, once we get to a certain level, it's all about giving back and supporting one another in our communities. And many of us go the investment route, and I have certainly done a little bit of that. But when I really stood back to look at how could I create maximum leverage for my community out there, I really saw an extraordinary opportunity to partner with a Fortune 50 company that was equally as committed to entrepreneurial success, both here in the United States and around the globe, and that's at Dell. And fortunately, Michael Dell and Steve Felice, who runs Dell, for Michael, I work with both of them, primarily with Steve. They were just as excited about the idea of teaming with us as I was to be a voice for our community and team with them. What they have given me the opportunity to do is I have now joined Dell as their first entrepreneur in residence. So in the Fortune 500, we think there are 6 or 7 of us. So it's quite an exciting thing to go in and be an EIR in a Fortune 50. The second gift they gave me, though, was the opportunity to do what I know I always wanted to do when I was an entrepreneur. And that was step inside a company like Dell, open up the lid, look at everything they have to offer, and instead of thinking as Dell is just, it's products, hardware, services, that type of thing, what else is in there that can really help me build my business? And they've given now my team and I the freedom and the support and the encouragement to cherry pick those resources. So executive access, experts inside of Dell, social media experts that we might want to tap into, certainly the technology expertise. And they've basically allowed us to put a package around that and offer all of that back out to all of us as entrepreneurs. The way that we do that is, the third gift they gave me is the gift of being an entrepreneur in residence is that it's our tradition that we launch our next business venture while we are an EIR. And because Michael and Steve have been so supportive of trying to figure out how they can best help us, I proposed back to them, I said, well, I really want to build a business venture out of being able to service up everything we have to offer here. And what I'd like to do is build out a $100 million fund to help entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses more effectively. Well, fortunately, they greenlit that initiative, and so I now oversee that. And the $100 million is used in two ways. Number one, we use the funding to fundamentally support and create initiatives that help all of us start and run our businesses more effectively. And number two is, we all know the number one problem that all of us have as entrepreneurs is always access to capital and credit. So they've allowed me to create a debt pool to make even doing business with Dell that much easier. To give you an idea of what happens when you team up with a Fortune 50 technology company and what that can do for your business, I see my Springboard, just people here, sorry. I think I just, yeah, go through. Springboard is an amazing organization that supports entrepreneurs of all kinds, but especially the women. And one of the Springboard alumni, a company called Current Motor, their CEO came to Dell and said, we would like to work with you. How can you help us? Well, it turned out this is an electric motor scooter company based out of Michigan. We teamed with their CEO, Lauren Flanagan, and she gave us the opportunity to bring our expertise in-house to Current Motor and strategize with her on how can we help architect the technology behind your electric motor scooter more effectively. What that ended up resulting in is we helped her solve a critical tech issue she was having, and that enabled her to get her product to market 6 months faster. And for all of us entrepreneurs out there, if you can get your company to market a day faster, it's a really big deal. It's a lot of money to us. So we were able to help her get to market 6 months faster. And so that kind of relationship that we have with Lauren and Current Motor, we now offer that up to entrepreneurs of all kinds. So I know the question is, how do you actually engage in with these companies? What can you do with us? Well, my team and I, we're that solution. I'm here as a peer to you. I'm excited to work with you. I get where you're coming from. I am you. And Dell has given me the opportunity to represent us inside the corporation. So let me know how I can help out, and we'll figure it out together, and love to work with you.
Fantastic. All right, Derek, can
Sure.
you?
So Derek Holt with the Startup America Partnership. You heard a little bit about us this morning from our chairman, Steve Case. Our focus really is on activating the large companies that you see on stage today, as well as serial entrepreneurs and support services all across the country to help create stronger entrepreneurial ecosystems in cities and states from coast to coast. To date, we have 28 live startup regions. We're driving towards 50 states in total, everywhere from Massachusetts and Connecticut down to Florida and Texas, out to Colorado and California, and all the way out to Hawaii, which you can imagine we're always raising our hand to go visit the Startup Hawaii team and help them with anything that they need in terms of progressing their mission. One of the really exciting pieces, and as I look at the folks that are on the panel here today, is I get the opportunity to work with a lot of really phenomenal brands. And one of the things that we focused on early on was, as we brought on sponsors and partners, we're not really cutting checks, but those that wanted to also be a real player and really participate in this startup ecosystem. Someone mentioned it earlier today. In some cases, showing up is half of the battle. And really dedicating and focusing their business in a real way, in a way that is beneficial for the corporations, but also beneficial for the startup ecosystem. So I've had the opportunity, I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of the great brands here and many others around helping them progress their startup focus and their startup mission. And really, again, doing it because it's good business for the startups, it's good business for the corporations, and ultimately, to me, that is sort of the definition of sustainable. People will continue to do that if it's continuing to be successful on both sides of the equation. So super excited to be here, and really proud to be flanked by huge supporters of our effort, and proud to see the progress that they've all made over our short existence, a year and a half. So we're a bit of a startup for startups in some ways. Looking forward to the discussion.
So for the small business organizations on the panel, it seems like you've all had success in partnering with corporations and helping to deliver your message and achieve your objectives. Talk a little bit about how, has it gotten easier over the years? I know some are relatively new, but do you find that the changing way that the world is communicating, let's say through social media, and the viral nature of the messaging that gets out there. Obviously, that's a benefit to a corporation that partners with you, that they get that good press. Talk about how has it gotten easier for you to go out and partner with corporations to help you achieve your objectives? Go ahead, Muneer.
This is probably not the right audience to say this to, but just speaking from the nonprofit perspective, we don't need any more entrepreneurs in the nonprofit field. We just don't. There's 1.5 million nonprofits in the country that are doing a lot of the same work. So what we need in our industry is entrepreneurs. We need people who are staying within the organization and thinking of creative ways to solve social issues. So the reason I say that is because there's 1.5 million nonprofits out there, we're all fighting for the same pot of money, essentially. So in the for-profit world, entrepreneurs are very important. In the nonprofit world, we need entrepreneurs, and at the same time, we need organizations who are able to give them that space to innovate, to think of creative ideas. And the reason I mention that is because DoSomething.org, this is something that we take a lot of pride in, and it's one reason why we're so successful, and one reason why corporations come to us is because we follow this model of innovation. Wednesday mornings is an hour long of innovation meetings where anybody that has an idea presents it to the entire staff, and if the CEO approves it and everybody likes it, then we put it into action. We call it ship it. We just literally just ship it and make it happen. And it's something that Google does, as a lot of companies do. So no, it has not gotten easier for us, but I think the nonprofit world needs to change to make that happen.
Okay.
I would just comment that it was mentioned a little bit earlier. I think it can get a little bit easier in terms of no different than having reference customers, right? If you have sponsors and partners that are seeing joint value in the effort, obviously it's going to be easier to attract additional conversations. But it simply comes down, I think, ultimately to two things, and I spent some time in enterprise sales, software sales. One was always ABC, always be closing. I think somebody mentioned it here today, always be ready with an ask, right? I mean, the worst possible situation is that you miss an opportunity where you are at a situation like this or anywhere. And again, it's got to be a well thought out ask, but I think that's hyper important. And then the other thing I learned a long time ago was if you think the relationship or the deal's closed when you sign the agreement or they cut the check, you're looking at it the wrong way. To me, that's when it begins. And ultimately, if you want to create sustainable sort of efforts, and this goes for everything from investors in your company to those that are sponsoring nonprofit activities, is think of that signing as the beginning as opposed to the end, and I think you'll go a lot farther with it.
Great. Michael?
Ben, I thought you made a really interesting comment earlier about that. You thought it was, in some ways, good that it was hard to get in. That helps keep the quality higher of what does get through. And I was just curious from both sides. I see, from an, kind of an association convener side, you see, lots of corporations that wanting to reach small businesses through organizations in many cases, and then organizations that want to reach corporations. Do you feel like the market should be more efficient? Do you feel like do you want more transparency about your initiatives and will result in more people contacting you? And I'd just be curious in that it could be better.
So maybe share a funny story that Ingrid would appreciate. I remember meeting with the chief marketing officers of two venture capital firms on Sand Hill Road a couple of years ago, and one of them had tried to get their firm to do a, how to design a business plan brochure that they could post on the website for companies that wanted to pitch that VC firm, and the other one wanted to do the same thing. One of them did it, and it was Canaan Partners, and they put a great, brochure up online, and the other one, which I won't name, said, no damn way, we don't want it to make it that easy for entrepreneurs to follow the template. I'll never forget that kind of story, because it's just, same business, two perspectives. But I do think you want people that are, well thought out, their request, their ask, and have done their homework on the company, for any of us, so that, we can be efficient with the use of our time and really focus on the companies that we can truly help the most. So,
I think for us, I don't think I've ever met one person that didn't want a free plane ticket. I'm still waiting for that to happen. But the one thing I do say to the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneur community is, give us like 3 reasons that by us making an investment in you, how does that really help you? I mean, to go to Hawaii and get a suntan is nice, but if it's the difference of bringing in key speakers, if it's the difference of being able to connect with that investor that needs to hear this idea, well, then all of a sudden there is a true value proposition, or if we can make your supply chain a little bit shorter. So, I mean, I think for us, we're in a very unique space because I would argue that most people in some way, shape, or form need air travel. The interesting thing is that we move 93 million people a year, but only 75% of them fly one time a year. And that's always a statistic that blew my mind once I heard it. So it shows you that there's definitely room to grow, even within us, and to get more people, on board, if you will.
So my ask is, so now that I've had the benefit of sitting on both sides, so I am here to be, again, a place for entrepreneurs and business owners to connect into Dell. Now that said, I can't even begin to describe to you the enormity of the volume of requests that come through. And so the ask I have back to you is a couple things. So first of all, and this point's been made a few times, if you can get really specific on what it is that you're looking for, what is that ask, and then what do you have in return, which brings up the second point. And the second thing is, I did this myself when I was an entrepreneur. I would look at a Fortune 50 company and I would just see bank, money. And what I'd love for you to do is, if you could just take a step back and imagine for me I certainly have a pool of capital to work with, but I got to do a lot of things with that. And I got to really stretch that. And I've got to really show that when Dell makes investments in entrepreneurs while nobody else is looking, or few people will do things with us because we're risky investments, that we're building loyalty and we can grow together. So with that, when you come in, I love when people come in and they certainly almost always have a financial ask, but if you could come with some creative ideas besides the money, what can we do together? How can you help me grow this opportunity inside Dell so that Dell can do more for more entrepreneurs? If you bring something like that to me, there is a really good chance that we're going to be able to figure something out relatively quickly.
I would agree with that point. I think, there's so many things. I mean, we're prohibited by securities regulations from making cash investments in companies that we work with, so that's not on the table for us the way it might be for others. But there's so many things that we can do, whether it's the firm as a customer for some of the tools that you're building, or whether it's connecting, small companies into our larger clients that might be looking for that kind of innovation or connection, or just, getting you knowledge and content. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do apart from our day-to-day job of, providing auditing and tax services that can really be helpful to young companies, perhaps even well before they need, the things we do to get paid for.
I would say that, in terms of youth entrepreneurship, that's where we're seeing, at least right now, is one of the more exciting, because it seems that, young people, even when they look at our business model, they have very dynamic ways of looking at our business. And one of the things that we're kicking around internally is, what if we invited some of these kind of young entrepreneurs to come in and look at our business processes and think about innovative ways that we can maybe do things better. There's a lot of processes that happen within our business, even within sales. And I think that there's opportunity there as well.
A lot of times you'll read in the paper, you'll see an ad or you'll see some kind of press release about a program that a corporation is sponsoring or involved in. And my feeling was always that you're too late. You're too late, even if it's like it fits right in your wheelhouse to what you're trying to do. I always think that those conversations need to happen 6 months earlier. So if you are a small business organization, a small business owner, how do you tap into those conversations in advance so that you can participate either in the program or have the corporation sponsor your program?
I think when a year ago we launched Great Jobs for USA with Starbucks, and it was part of its DNA, really, to keep engaging as we went forward. It was not meant to be designed by us or by Starbucks as an exclusive thing, and there's really power, I think, in being able to plug people into it as it goes. Over time, we've added. I think we had additional partners join us: Google Offers, Banana Republic, Citibank, and most recently MasterCard has joined us. And we continue to look for corporate partners. So anyone in the panel or in the audience, feel free to talk. But I think that there's a real power to that, and if it's a creative, organic, living thing, there should be room for people to come, even once that conversation has started. If you know, it needs to be more than just the press release and the plaque on the wall.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of getting ahead of the ball is what you're talking about. You know, Derek mentioned the always be closing, but I think you always want to be. The other saying is you always want to be hustling as well, and that means just like getting out there, meeting people, and knowing that you don't actually have to make the ask every time that you meet someone. In fact, the best kind of relationships are the ones where you meet someone, and then 2 years later you have a light bulb of like, oh yeah, this is what we can do together, and that's how you get ahead because you're constantly having conversations with people, and then the timing is right, and then you know how to make that ask and close the deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk a lot about, you know, folks, we don't do any sort of capital investment either, but people come to us often with capital issues, and my comment often is if you're coming to me when you actually, or going to anybody when you actually need the capital, you're probably late to the game already, right? And this notion of building up relationships across talent, across capital, across customer, like that, those things are not binary engagements, right? Those are continuums, and there's a lot of relationships that start off and you don't really have an obvious path forward, but you know, to your point, a year, 2 years later, it kind of clicks. And to me, the entrepreneurs that are sort of the serial kind of iconic entrepreneurs, certainly that I look up to, they just operate that way, right? They're always plugged in, and they're always looking to network and build relationships that may or may not have value at that moment in time, but they are committed for the long run.
Yeah.
One of the things that is part of our strategic thinking in helping small businesses is to help them understand that people buy when they're ready to buy, not when you're ready to sell, and that nurturing those relationships, even if you're a florist or you're doing something in a small way, it's not always going to be on your timetable. So that principle applies from small business all the way up to engaging with big organizations and corporations. You have to nurture relationships. You have to find the right time when it does really make sense. It can't be just when you're ready to ask for a check. I'm all for the principle of, you know, being ready to pounce on opportunities when they are right, but it often takes days, weeks, months, and sometimes years before those opportunities really exist. And if you have the relationship established when the right time comes, you're much more likely to have success closing that.
Question?
I feel like I hear almost conflicting advice. Because on the other hand, on one hand, you're saying, you know, build a relationship, find the right time to ask. And on the other hand, you're saying, come with a specific ask. And I've definitely felt sometimes when I come to somebody to build a relationship, I felt that they want to ask, they want to know why, want to set up a meeting, but you don't want to be asked up front for money. So, you know, I'm just curious, for maybe the corporate organizations, how you got in the door, how you navigate that, building relationships with companies.
So one thing that I've used, I've used it as a lifelong entrepreneur, and I used it even when I was working on this deal with Dell. And that is, before I go and do anything, so if there's not a relationship already in place, I definitely do my homework. And it's not just homework on what does this organization do, like specifically who am I meeting and what are their personal interests and passions. And then I always think about, I need to get this message out in 5 minutes or less, like max. And what that message when I meet with them needs to be is, what is it that I know about you that I can say what I have will add value to what you care about? So for example, Starbucks, Howard Schultz, he's a big mountain biking racer, okay? When you're at that level, you are so busy that if somebody comes in the door and they don't instantly connect with you, you just got way too many other things going on. But now if you come in and you're able to make a comment about the mountain biking racing, and I'm a mountain biker too, and here's this event, and we're involved with this event, might be a great place for Starbucks to connect with, you know, some other riders there and spread your message further. You get the idea of what I'm saying. Those are the kinds of things that actually really make a difference. So think about that 5-minute rule, like really understand the person, go in with your ask, how do you connect in a very special, unique way?
Yeah, so partnerships are, the best partnerships are not between corporations, they're between people, and that's something never to forget.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. My name is Linda Pea and I work with Ashoka. We're a network of 3,000 social entrepreneurs around the world. You've talked a lot about how you could potentially help us as entrepreneurs, and I would like to revert that question to you. How can we help you? And I think Jason touched upon this when he said that young entrepreneurs and young people can help you and your company better think about how to target your market because they're so creative and they come up with new ideas. So I want to ask you, what do you do within your company to create those corporate entrepreneurs? And how can we as entrepreneurs help you create that culture within your company?
Who wants to tackle that? So the question is, how can entrepreneurs help entrepreneurial organizations and large corporations better understand the marketplace that you hope to serve? Is that what you're asking?
How do you create those employees that are not just employees within your companies, but they are entrepreneurs, or how you were saying, intrapreneurs?
So creating entrepreneurial champions within your organization as point people, probably.
I guess for me, I would say that's your question really speaks to the heart of what one of my biggest headaches is at American. I am a former entrepreneur. I guess I still am an entrepreneur, having been in a small business, also worked for the UN. But American is not an entrepreneurial company. However, we are innovative, and we have a history and a tradition of leadership. So sometimes they kind of butt heads, if you will. And one of the things that myself and Daniel and some of the other members of my team is really educating our most senior leadership. Tom Horton, our president, Varas Vahidi, they're very interested, but a lot of it is educating them on why is entrepreneurship important, period, at the end. And then the next thing is, how is youth entrepreneurship important? When we start looking at our demographics, at the end of the day, our most loyal customers are eventually going to leave the system. Who exactly is replacing us? What a great way to bring our kind of the young talent in the door. And we're not going to bring everybody, but the one thing I've come to realize is that the social media, the notion of something happens and 7 seconds later it's all over the place, that is real time. And the more that we do to empower and encourage the younger generation, that message starts to get out there. And it's very authentic. It's not 3 bullet points from CorpCom and a pretty chart. It's something very authentic and sincere.
Just Ed, I wanted to ask you that question. Running DECA, you must get a lot of corporations coming to you, and how do you work with them and your student entrepreneurs?
First of all, I have to say categorically we never have enough, so if you're worried about not being able to work with us, that's not usually a problem. One of the things, I was thinking about that question in terms of my organization, about the question of how do you keep it live, how do you have that entrepreneurial spirit. We elect them every year. And they're our national officers, and kids come in and they spend time with our staff, and they literally reinvent the notion and programs directly from their perspective. And I would encourage others to think about that kind of approach. Someone mentioned an interest in having kids come in or people evaluate services. We run a program with Finish Line where our students go and shop their stores, analyze their merchandising, do all of this kind of stuff, do a YouTube video on what could be better. The winners go to corporate headquarters and present to the management team. That kind of thing keeps us alive and also keeps our partnerships alive, because we're looking for ways to put our student leaders and our young people in front of the corporations all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I was interviewing for American Express, one of the high-up people towards the end asked me a question, which was, "Are you a rule follower?" And I was like, not really. And she was like, great, and gave me a high five. And I think that was the point really when I think from her perspective, she probably decided I was going to get an offer, and from my perspective, I decided I would accept it. So I think it really ingraining a culture of obviously you're not going around breaking rules, but knowing that rules are oftentimes meant to be bent quite a lot, and that leads to innovation.
One other thing that I'll add to that is, there's sort of a running joke at Dell that they say, I'm the first entrepreneur in residence, but actually I'm not. I'm the second entrepreneur in residence because we have Michael. And we are a very entrepreneurial company, and we want to attract the best talent. And we know that to attract the best talent, we need to offer some pretty extraordinary opportunities. So the way that we keep ourselves pretty entrepreneurial, I shared with you some of the things that I have going on, but over the past 2 years, we've made 13 acquisitions, and all of those CEOs are still with us. Right. And their companies have had extraordinary growth. I wish one of my companies had been acquired by Dell. It's awesome to watch it. Another thing that we do is actually Michael's former EA is a guy named Nnamdi Owaknu. I always say his last name wrong. We're good friends. Can never say his last name. But Nnamdi started an internal business plan competition and basically said, okay, $300,000, anybody and everybody inside of Dell can compete for this, and there will be 3 winners, and each winner is going to get $100,000 in basically 6 months to build out your ideas. Well, that competition has been running. One of the ideas has totally built out into a completely new business, and that's just over the past few months. And then if you look at like Dell Cloud Services or Dell OEM Services, those were all startup organizations inspired from inside of Dell that have basically grown now to be multi-billion-dollar business units that were inspired by a couple of entrepreneurs. So we're looking for that. We're looking for people who come to the company with great ideas, and then we figure out how can we plug in with you and grow something together.
Brian, did you want to add
The only comment I would make, certainly from a recruiting standpoint, we bring a lot of young people into the firm every year from universities, and a lot of them will leave, and that's just part of the model in terms of turnover. But the objective there is to give them a great experience while they're there, and a lot of those are entrepreneurial experiences. So whether it's them going out and interviewing Entrepreneur of the Year nominees and hearing about their business firsthand, which is an experience they all love, or being in our corporate social responsibilities fellows program and going overseas and working with companies and organizations there to help them with their needs for a few months as part of their tour of duty, or just getting a chance to work on some of the most exciting venture-backed and recent IPO companies around. I mean, they love all of that, and a lot of them say, hey, that looks like fun, and go out and either work for a startup or create their own.
Hi, guys. Great panel. God, I'm going to listen to it again. There were so many gems, I can't believe it. I'm curious, do you measure media impressions on your philanthropic investments? And do you internally put price tags on that? Like, does media have value that is clear and direct in meetings? Do you actually talk about it and go, that's a great opportunity? I'm fascinated to know the answer, and I won't judge you on it, but I'm just dying to know. Thanks.
So does media impressions play a role in your philanthropic endeavors?
Quick answer is yes. I mean, it builds the brand.
Yeah, I would start by saying absolutely. I mentioned earlier that Great Jobs for USA has had north of 1 billion media impressions, and although we've also raised $13.5 million, we have an ongoing debate in the office about what's more important, the dollars or the visibility connected with what we're doing. We have not put a dollar amount to impressions, and I would actually be curious to hear about that. How do people actually value that?
We don't have the kind of impressions these guys have, but I have read articles from people who have put values on media impressions. And the one that comes to mind is a tenth of a cent for a tweet. So a penny for your 10 thoughts is what that came out. But I think it was on Mashable. But it said for a small business, a Yelp review is just worth under $10, and on the other side, a tweet is sort of a tenth of a penny. There are people who are starting to put values on media impressions, social media impressions, so you can start to understand what the value of a campaign or a partnership with somebody that has big media presence in the social world. And obviously, a lot of that comes from people that love your brand and hopefully it's more good than bad.
Or it's a way for them to connect with the brand in a way that they hadn't historically. Again, if Ingrid all of a sudden starts tweeting how great Jason and American Airlines is, I have a feeling that's going to be, good. By the way, Ingrid, feel free to do that. I'm serious. We're here. We're here. Okay, just check.
You have to retweet it.
I'm going to
And I'll
retweet with
retweet
the
you.
hashtag and everything.
Greg, you got it.
Michael, you had one more question, Michael?
Use the hashtag Empact Summit when you retweet it.
Okay.
I would add just one other thing that we clearly talk a lot about, and when we were getting started, that sort of building the brand awareness was so hypercritical, both in terms of just getting meetings and getting opportunities, but also about progressing the mission. The other thing I find that's really interesting, which I don't know if you can put a dollar figure on it, is it's almost a real-time finger on the pulse of whether or not things that you're doing are actually creating buzz. And for some of the bigger brands, it's because there's so much buzz to begin with, it's probably hard to see some of those deviations. But when you're younger and getting started, it was a real way to get market validation, or, hey, we thought that was a big idea and like we got nothing from it, right? So it was a really transparent view that I think starting something like this 5-10 years ago just would not have been there.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the panel. My name is Rafael Balbi. I'm here on behalf of Lean Startup Machine. Over the past year, we've done some pretty significant workshops with large organizations such as News Corp, Salesforce, Singularity University, and now we're working with the White House Fellows. So I wanted to ask if any of you upstage had implemented Lean methodologies to hash out a new innovation initiative or anything of that nature.
Corporate America's running pretty lean these days as it is. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my way background as our CEO, Scott Case, was one of the co-founders of Priceline, and then obviously you heard from our chairman today, Steve Case, not related, who was with AOL early on. So we all came from sort of a technical background. Interesting, sort of lean and agile. We've been doing that in the development world for a decade, maybe 15, 20 years. So I think by definition almost apply those same principles of release early and often and quick iterations and early customer feedback. It was something, frankly, that the IT world suffered from for a long time, sort of traditional waterfall development. And to me, we try to implement that on all of the business stuff that we do now, which is relatively second nature, although I think there's been some great work recently that's kind of really summarized and put a topology and some other things to the broader methodology for non-tech companies and tech companies, right?
I think at the end of the day, we've all heard that terms, you got to show that the dogs eat the dog food. People are looking at, is your idea actually generating results? And also at the end of the day, we're all in business, which means we're all here to generate money and value of some sort. And so the way that I'm running things with our initiatives at Dell is very entrepreneurially in the sense that, so even though we've got a decent sized fund, I take chunks out of it and then let the results speak for themselves. And what that does for not only me and the organization is very similar to what it does for all of us as entrepreneurs and customers or your investors, is we're building confidence and we're building trust. And going back to that whole relationship based idea, that if we think about anything in life, certainly anything in business, is at the end of the day based on relationships. Well, when you've built a relationship based on integrity, trust, confidence, you're showing that your results can work, people are going to want to do more and more and more with you. And I don't take what Dell has enabled me to do on behalf of our community lightly at all. And so it's critically important that every day my whole team runs as entrepreneurs. Every single thing we do, we have to be able to track an ROI in whatever way that is. Media hits, sales and relationships back to the company. I think it's always important. The minute you forget about that, well then it's basically an art project. You're just doing something you feel passionate about and let's hope that it works. So I used to be an artist, I was an architect, so I'm allowed to say that, but you know what I mean.
Sure. Well, on that note, I'm getting the signal that we are out of time. I thought this panel personally was tremendously beneficial. I mean, there are so many things that I learned, and I've been doing this for 23 years. So I appreciate everybody on both panels providing insight, and I think it'll be a testament to the success of this event that when we come back here next year, we can have people come up here who were able to do some deals based on a conversation you heard today. So to all the panelists, thank you very much.